How's everyone doing? This is going to be another What Didn't Make the Shelf video. This is where I show you what movies didn't make the shelf, aka the collection. I've done a bunch of these videos already, and they're pretty cathartic to go through the collection. I try to do that every day and pick out one or two, and then after a bit, I'll have a pile and I'll do a video. And over the past 5.5 years, I've sold over 11,000 movies, which is kind of mind-blowing. But when you sell that many, you hit a bit of an impasse now. I have a little under 6,000 right now, and I want to get down to 2,500. And every month I get in about 30 movies, so I try to get out double that amount. And I make it a rule, if I buy anything movie-wise, I try to, for every one that I get in, two go out. And I'm still going to be buying movies that I like. I'm still a collector. I'm still a fan of movies. I'm not getting rid of everything. I'm just slimming down the collection because realistically, how many movies can you rewatch in your lifetime? And I see a lot of people on here. I remember I did the movie collection battle, and I think some guy was saying he's got like 3,000 steelbooks and he never opened any of them. Mind-blowing to me. Like, what's the point? I guess everybody collects differently, but I don't understand. That's not for me. That's not the way I collect. I heard somebody recently say that, you know, they bought a movie for the slipcover, but they're never going to open the movie. They're never going to watch it. Again, that's not how I collect. To each their own, but for me, I don't want to have things just to have them. If I can't see myself rewatching the movie, it's time to get rid of it. And shout out to Joe and Marie at Martinez Joe 74. They started doing these videos and they came up with the initial concept for it. So thank you so much for that idea. It's been inspirational and helpful. I used to do a video series somewhat similar, but not as good, called Keep or Toss. And basically I was asking your opinion. And if I don't need to rationalize. If I'm thinking about getting rid of something, I should just get rid of it. But let's go ahead and get into it. I've got 17 titles right here, and if you've seen any of them, definitely let me know what you think of them, and let me know which one of these is your favorite, because even though I'm getting rid of them, I like to hear differing opinions too, and sometimes I think the movies are good. Sometimes for me, they're a one-time watch. First up is the 7-Ups, and this is directed by Philip D'Antoni. This was his only film that he directed, feature film. He's a producer, though. He produced some great action films, Bullet with Steve McQueen, French Connection. So there's a lot of great car chases, and there's a great car chase sequence in here too. Probably one of my favorite parts of the movie. The 7-Ups it's a good movie. It's just one of those ones where it's a little rough around the edges, and I'm not sure if I'm going to rewatch it again. Roy Scheider is the lead here. He's the lead of this squad of New York City police detectives called the 7-Ups, because they look for essentially big busts that get criminals 7 years and up. And he has a friend from the neighborhood from when they grew up as kids, and you know, he talks to him and stuff, and he's involved with you know, some of the criminal activity going on, so they kind of help each other out. And then things get kind of twisted around, and there's a bunch of mobsters who are getting kidnapped, and they're trying to figure out by who. And then one of his crew gets involved, and after that, it's kind of a revenge tale. And I like how it unfolds. I just wanted a bit more from it. I do think this is one, if you're into, you know, action films like that, I would recommend checking this one out. Definitely worth at least a one-time watch. It's got that gritty feel, and I like the supporting cast here a lot, especially Tony LoBianco, and then Richard Lynch was so excellent in here. He kind of reminds me of Klaus Kinski a little bit. His eyes are just piercing. He has kind of like a somewhat similar look, but really good in this role. And this is a Twilight Time release, and it's out of print, and it's going for I think on eBay for like 70, 80 bucks. So I think I would rather put this towards other movies that I am really into and can see myself rewatching again. Again, I like aspects of it, but I just felt like it could have been a little bit better. I wanted more from it, rough around the edges. But again, it is a gritty, you know, crime thriller movie. Some good action sequences in there, good tension, and a nice release from Twilight Time, limited to 3,000 copies. And there you go. Go ahead and show you. It's got the booklets and interior artwork. I always love Twilight Time for their releases. Just a complete release. I love what they did, and certain things that certain companies do really stand out to me. This one, again, you know, interior artwork, booklet, sometimes newly commissioned artwork. Not always special features, but this one has a bevy of special features. But also one thing in particular, the way that they boxed off all the technical aspects, real easy to find, you know, the runtime, the year, all that stuff. And sometimes it's really hard to do, or sometimes companies don't even put that on the back. So I definitely appreciate that. And they used to do blue cases, but then for a long time they were doing the clear cases. So definitely a fan of them as a company. Next up, I've got 2 extra copies of The Green Mile on 4K. I have another copy for myself. This is a great Stephen King adaptation. Let me know what your favorite Stephen King adapted movie is, and some underrated Stephen King adapted movies. A couple underrated Stephen King adaptations for me, movie-wise, were the Night Flyer vampire movie, and then Storm of the Century. I love the heck out of that one. That one got mixed reviews, but I'm a big fan of it. But this one right here is directed by Frank Darabont, who directed some great films. The Mist, The Majestic, which is one of my favorite Jim Carrey movies, a more serious role from him. Truman Show might be my favorite Jim Carrey movie. Let me know what your favorite Jim Carrey movie is. But I think he's great outside of the comedic roles too, but excellent in those. He also directed Shawshank Redemption, but he's also written screenplays and things like that for the Blob remake, Fly 2 with Eric Stoltz, Nightmare on Elm Street, Dream Warriors, which is one of my favorite from Nightmare on Elm Street, and did an excellent job here. And yeah, this is just an all-time classic. I love this one. Michael Clark Duncan, so amazing. Just an incredible film, very touching, very moving in the prison here, and just working on like death row, and all the characters really shine here, acting wise. David Morse, Tom Hanks again, Michael Clark Duncan, James Cromwell, and Graham Greene, Doug Hutchinson, Sam Rockwell, Barry Pepper, just Patricia Clarkson, Harry Dean Stanton, Michael Jeter, Jeffrey DeMunn, just a perfect casting here. Excellent score too. Doug Hutchinson plays just creepy characters so well, and he was excellent here as kind of like villainous character you love to hate. And when you hate a character like that, they're doing a great job acting wise. I feel like he does it so effortlessly in a few different movies. Plays a sniveling character, but in real life, it was kind of crazy. He married a 16-year-old girl when he was 51. And they just recently broke up. He's 61 now, and she just turned like 26 or something like that, which is crazy to think. It's R. Kelly-esque right there, but I don't know. That was just a weird thing. They were together for, I want to say like a decade or something like, yeah, well, obviously a decade. The age is right there. But I remember hearing that. I just remember thinking, oh, that was so, what do they have in common? Like, that's creepy, weird. And when people say negative things about Hollywood, that's an example right there. I don't know. That was something that sticks out in my mind. I remember hearing that. I was like, well, maybe that's why you could play these roles so well. You hear all these crazy stories in Hollywood, but you look back to some of the crazy, super crazy stories in classic Hollywood. Some of the things that happened there, outrageous. A lot of, Fatty Arbuckle. There's a ton of stories out there. I'm going to go down a rabbit hole and just talk a bunch. But yeah, there's a lot of crazy stories as you hear everything going now. Back in the day, it was even worse. I feel like we're more astounded now because, social media, everybody's, there's more press coverage on a lot of things. Some stuff was hushed up back then, but I digress. Let's get back to these movies. So yeah, this is an all-time classic for sure, and can't wait to check this out on 4K. I've got multiple copies, but I haven't had a chance to sit down and watch it yet on 4K. But I do love the heck out of the movie. Again, people ask me, how do you get duplicates? Why do you get duplicates? For certain movies, if I get it for a great price point, it's worth picking up for trade bait or reselling. And sometimes there's local sellers that'll have a huge pile of movies for a great price, and there might be 2 of the same or 3 of the same movie in there, but it's worth picking it up. Another example, there's a couple duplicates in here. Deadly Games, new release from Arrow Video. Got a couple copies of this one. And this was interesting. It's an 80s, it's kind of billed as an 80s slasher, but it's not too much. It's more like murder mystery. I love a little bit of embossing right there on the title. And a really nice looking slipcover, but the movie is a bit disappointing. I was actually really enjoying it the first half. A little rough around the edges, low budget, could have been a little bit better, and then it just kind of like fell off a cliff. And then like a couple of kills like you don't really even see. So that was a bit disappointing. And it's kind of a small town. There's a murder that happens, and then you kind of find out there's a bunch of infidelity in the relationships, and that's kind of like a big part of this too. And I love the lead actress in here. She was so friggin' good. Keegan, played by Joanne Harris. And I think pretty much the whole cast shine. Dick Butkus is in here too, the legendary football player for the Chicago Bears. But yeah, this it could have been a lot better than it was. Some really good special features on here, though. You get a interview for the actress who played Sudi, Jer Ray Mansfield, who ended up marrying the director in here, who is Scott Mansfield. You know, she worked on this, and then they ended up getting married, and that was pretty cool to hear. Steve Railsback is in here too. He's been in a bunch of films. Really good character actor. Often plays, you know, kind of crazy characters, which he kind of plays a bit here too. But I feel like there's only a couple characters that the killer could be, and you can kind of, you know, there's a red herring-esque kind of aspect, I feel like. But I really loved the actors. I thought they did a great job in their roles, especially all the female actresses. They all really worked in their roles, but especially Keegan. I thought she was so freaking good, and I was loving the first half of the movie, even though, you know, it had some issues. But then it just fell off a cliff for me, and I was so bummed. And then the ending was ridiculous and just disappointing. It kind of meanders after that too, and the, you know, relationships and some of the dialogue and just some of the actions of the characters. Just overall, this is about average for me, so a bit bummed. But a new Arrow video release, which I was able to get a few copies for. Next up, I have 2 copies of King Richard. And do you think Will Smith will win the Oscar for his portrayal of Richard Williams? Let me know, and let me know your favorite Will Smith movie is. I'm a big fan of him. I think he can do, you know, comedic, action, dramatic. He was really good in here. Biopic, and this is directed by Ronaldo Marcus Green, who also did another biopic, Joe Bell. It was kind of a recent one. So he's knocking these out, and I thought this was really well done. The father of Venus and Serena Williams, and talk about his life, and it gets into some, you know, more personal things too. And there's the one scene that really stands out for me. A couple of gang members, I guess, in the community, Compton, were kind of, you know, messing with him, and they're beating him up, and he tries to defend his one daughter's honor and gets the crap kicked out of him. And then you see him follow one of them, and he's got a gun, and he was gonna do something that could have changed all of their lives. And luckily fate stepped in and did the job for him. But that scene was just dark and just kind of elevated the movie a bit. It wasn't so glossed over, but you get a lot of insight about him as a person, and how he was, and how, you know, a lot of people thought that he was kind of like ruining their careers and their chances and opportunities. I thought it was an excellent portrayal, and I thought it was really one of the best movies of the past year. So I would definitely recommend checking this one out. And what I noticed is, like, some of these 4Ks are getting like really limited, and like the American Underdog 4K, like the price point was like double the price of the Blu-ray, and some of the like the 4Ks are getting harder to find. They're not as easily accessible on you know, a lot of the stores and stuff like that. So yeah, I think this was kind of one of those ones too where it wasn't as easily accessible for the 4K, and it seems to be happening more with certain studios. So really good film, really great performances. I like the 2 young actresses who played Venus and Serena as well. And then a bunch of the other supporting cast members too really did an excellent job. John Barenthal, I'm a big fan of him. He always does an excellent job, but Will Smith really shines here. Tremendous performance. And I would like to see him win the Oscar for his portrayal right there. And next up from Kino Classics is Buster Keaton in The Saphead. And this was his feature-length film debut. He did a bunch of short films before that. This is in 1920. And I thought it was disappointing. I thought it was okay at best. Just, you know, average. It's just, you know, all about him and the hijinks and a lot of, you know, physical comedy and stuff like that. I thought the stock market scene was the best scene by far. You know, he's getting thrown out, and, you know, all kinds of crazy things happening there. But, you know, it's just him being the son of this really wealthy guy, and a romance aspect that gets all mixed about, and he gets you know, mixed up with another character who's just really not a good guy, and he gets blamed for some of the issues there. And then there's some stock market issues going on too, and you know, the Wall Street, and it's okay. It's average. I feel like, you know, people check this out because it's Buster Keaton. It's his feature-length film debut, but it's dated. It doesn't hold up that well. It doesn't really stand out. If you're a big Buster Keaton fan, maybe check it out. But if you're not, this isn't going to be the film that really persuades you to check out more of his films. The General is probably my favorite from him. Let me know what your favorite Buster Keaton movie is. And let me know who your favorite silent film star is. Of course, Keaton, Lloyd, Chaplin, those are some of the really renowned ones. I watched a documentary called This is Francis X. Bushman recently, which was a really good documentary. I'd highly recommend the heck out of that one, from Flickr Alley. And that was a really good one about Francis X. Bushman, who was a notable silent film star. But yeah, this one to me, it's a really nice release for it. And I think this is out of print and goes for like $35 or something like that, around there. I can't remember now, but yeah, some special features. So it's a really nice release for it, but the film overall just didn't stand out for me. It's got that really deadpan look, the crazy eyes, a little bit, intense, but definitely wanted more from that one. Next up is one that I saw a long time ago, and I really don't remember it that well. I just remember it being kind of bland and didn't stand out, and the pacing didn't really help. Not a lot really happened there, and I remember the ending not being great. So even though it's been a while, I just remember thinking it wasn't that great, and I remember just putting it on the shelf. And I think I liked the lead actress, and then Goldust is in here too, in a very small role, wrestler. So I think I was kind of keeping it for that. Dustin Runnels is his actual name. But I remember thinking it was, low budget and nothing special. And I'm like, it's time to get rid of this one. It was sitting on the shelf, just popped out. I was like, it's got to go. So yeah, I remember thinking like, I'm probably not going to want to revisit it. And I just put it on the shelf. And that was kind of my mindset back then. And now I got to change that. There's really no reason to keep movies just to keep. I don't understand that mindset. Space is at a premium too. And yeah, I just want to have a collection that means something to me, that's personal to me, films that I love. Next up is Initiation. This was kind of a slasher movie, a recent one that was nothing special, disappointing. Again, this is one where I feel like it thought it was smarter than it was, but there's only a few different people that the killer could be, and there's one character in particular that stood out to me that would show up at certain scenes, and just thinking like, well, they would have access to, certain things like that, and that's how it plays out. It's basically revolves around a star athlete and fraternity, and there's some sorority characters in here too, initiation, stuff like that, and there's a party, and there's an assault that takes place, and you find out more about the character. She's the lead here, and her brother, and then it kind of plays out that certain characters are getting killed off, and they're trying to figure out who it is, and nothing special, disappointing. The kills are uninspired. There's some good drama, tension elements there, but the acting wasn't great either. It was messy, and I do like, you can see some of the killers, kind of seeing their reflection and stuff like that, but definitely doesn't stand out. I would say below average, disappointing. So that has to go. And next up are the DVDs. We've got Spontaneous, which was really good. The only reason I'm getting rid of this one is because Blu-ray for it just came out, and I want to pick that up because I really loved the heck out of this one, with Catherine Langford in it, of course, in 13 Reasons Why. Knives Out, I think she's a really talented young actress, as well as Charlie Plummer. I remember I first saw him in a movie called Lean on Pete, and I didn't like his acting in that one, but then since then I've loved a lot of the films that he's been in. And another TV show that I think is really good, if you like 13 Reasons Why, check out Looking for Alaska, which stars him. Has a similar kind of feel to it. But this one has great elements, mixture of horror, comedy, and romance. It's basically about, kind of coming of age love story, and students in high school start spontaneously combusting, exploding, and nobody knows who's going to be next. And they think it has to do with, turning a certain age and stuff like that. And, they got to live for today. I love the heck out of it. High recommendation for Spontaneous, great cast. And everything just works well for this one. All the different elements and genre blends. And it's just a fun time. And Spontaneous is directed by Brian Duffield, who is a writer for some movies that I enjoyed. Underwater with Kristen Stewart, I really like that one. Sci-fi, horror elements in there too. The Babysitter, which is a really good horror comedy movie. And then Love and Monsters, another one really good, great genre blend with, sci-fi, some horror elements in there too, romance. But I love the heck out of those three. This is actually his directorial debut right here, feature length. So anything he does in the future, I will check out because I've loved what he's done writing and directing wise. I'm only getting rid of this one to get the Blu-ray. So yeah, there you go. There's certain movies like that that are upgrades, and that's one of them. Another one is John Candy Comedy Collection 3-movie set. Going Berserk, Great Outdoors, Uncle Buck. I already have Uncle Buck and Great Outdoors on Blu-ray. In Going Berserk, there's one really funny scene for me that stands out with Ernie Hudson. I love that scene so freaking much, but the rest of the movie is just kind of a bit of a mess and not one of John Candy's best. So I'm going to get rid of this DVD set right here. And I love Uncle Buck and Great Outdoors. Let me know what your favorite John Candy movie is. He had small bits in a bunch of other movies, Home Alone, but just a comedic legend, one of my all-time favorite comedic actors. Let me know who your favorite comedic actor is. Him and Chris Farley, both gone too soon, two great comedic actors that I love. So there is the triple feature for John Candy right there that I'm going to get rid of. Next up, I'm getting rid of Drop Dead Fred. This just had a Vinegar Syndrome Blu-ray release. I know Severin was going to put it out, and there were some issues there. And then Vinegar Syndrome ended up just releasing with a slipcover, which I don't love the artwork for that one. I know it's fitting for the movie, but this is an iconic picture. I remember loving this movie as a kid. I rewatched it probably about a year ago, and I hated it. It was just annoying and obnoxious. And I think as a kid, you watch a movie like this and you just think it's outrageous and fun, but now as an adult, it was rough to sit through. I love Phoebe Cates though. She's absolutely stunning and talented. Fast Times at Ridgemont High, of course, but she's been in a bunch of great movies. Rick Mayhell, he was good in the role, I guess, for being obnoxious and annoying, but this isn't a movie I want to sit through. It's like nails on a chalkboard for me now as an adult. There's a lot of movies that I loved as a kid, and then rewatching them as an adult, they just don't hold up for me, and this was definitely one of them. Let me know if there is a movie that you loved as a kid, and then you rewatched it as an adult and you hate it. Leave me a comments for that for sure, because I have a bunch. This is definitely one of them, though. Walk Like a Man is another one, too, that I loved as a kid, and rewatching it as an adult just doesn't hold up with Howie Mandel. It's interesting because he's rolling around in dirt and mud in that one. Now, it's a big germaphobe. Wonder if that had something to do with it. But yeah, this one's got to go. I don't want to rewatch that one. Just kind of shows you how your taste can cultivate, and especially as a kid, things that you liked, and you look back, you're like, eesh, what were you thinking? But you're a kid. You didn't know any better. That's a prime example. But I know this is so fun because I see everybody raving about this. And there's so many movies like the Street Fighter movie. I remember people were like raving about that. The Steelbook for it from Mill Creek, amazing looking Steelbook, but the movie's the dumpster fire of a movie. I feel like that way for a bunch of different movies that people are raving about, but to each their own. Next up is The Trial of the Incredible Hulk. I got this for $7.99. I got it at a grocery store. I don't remember which grocery store it was, but I remember I was with a bunch of friends and coworkers and stuff, and they were like, don't buy that. And I did anyways. I believe it was 2001 when I bought this, but Trial of the Incredible Hulk, part of the Incredible Hulk TV show back in the day with Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno. Bill Bixby directed this one too, and it stars the character of Daredevil, played by Rex Smith, who's actually really good in that role. And Jonathan Rhys-Davies plays the Kingpin. And initially I was thinking, the Kingpin, he's bald, super big. And Jonathan Rhys-Davies is a bigger guy, but not quite as big as, the Kingpin, which you picture from the comic books. And Jonathan Rhys-Davies has hair as well, but he was really good in the role. He just plays, that bad guy so well. A great actor in there. So I was really impressed with Jonathan Rhys-Davies in the role, as well as Rex Smith as Daredevil, Matthew Murdock. But the movie's okay. It's dated, and I did open it up, but I kept the wrapping on there. It's interesting, finding these DVDs back then. A lot of the DVDs that they had at this is Top Media. This is one of those companies that was like, I feel like had a lot of releases and that you'd see in supermarkets and stuff. But also I feel like in that time period especially, you would find, even though it's a well-branded, well-known, reputable grocery store, you'd find like gray market DVDs that weren't quite, black market bootleg stuff, but they were, questionable. So yeah, but this one right here, Trial of the Incredible Hulk, he witnesses on the subway, an incident, an attack. Those are kind of like henchmen that work for the Kingpin. So they all get involved. Daredevil, Kingpin, the Hulk. He's trying to control his rage, and the police are saying that, Bruce Banner, actually David Banner. It's so funny, the David Banner thing. I remember seeing an interview from Stan Lee on why they changed the name from Bruce Banner to David Banner, because TV executives at that time period thought the name Bruce was too homosexual. I've never heard that before. It's so crazy to think that. But yeah, that's a thing. So I think, you know, they were trying to do some damage control after that and say that wasn't the case. But there's an interview out there of Stan Lee saying that's what happened, and I'm going to believe him on that. So this one to me, it's okay. If you're a fan of the TV show, it's worth checking out. And the portrayal of the Hawk, Bill Bixby, you know, conflicted, trying to control the rage and stuff like that, but also wanting to help out. You know, let me know who your favorite Hawk is. Who, you know, technically Lou Ferrigno was the only one who played the Hawk, but Eric Bana I liked a lot, and I feel like he didn't get a fair chance to portray him enough. Edward Norton, I think he wanted more money. It's a shame. Mark Ruffalo, he kind of has the longest run now and been in so many different, you know, the Avengers ones. I feel like those other actors, they could have made a lot more money and been in a lot more movies. They made it work. But next up is Orange County. I remember seeing this in the theaters 2002, and this was a fun one. This is an early Colin Hanks movie, son of Tom Hanks, obviously, and Jack Black in here. It's ridiculous hijinks. You know, he's a really good student, and his brother is a slacker, and he's got his girlfriend there too, and he gets things mixed up for his, you know, transcripts for college, and he's trying to get into I believe it's Stanford, and yeah, he's trying to go there and, you know, figure everything out and talk to them and make sure he gets things corrected, and, you know, hijinks ensue. And this is directed by Jake Kasdan, who directed the recent 2 Jumanji movies, directed some questionable comedy movies, Sex Tape, Bad Teacher, and they're making a Bad Teacher 2, which unnecessary, but Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, which is kind of funny actually, but for me, Orange County was the best of those, you know, kind of comedic roles. Jumanji was the Jumanji movies were much better than I thought they were going to be, especially the first one. Maybe the first Jumanji might take that, but Orange County has a special place in my heart. I love the soundtrack here. I remember watching it and just loving it. So this is going to get a Blu-ray release, so the only reason I'm getting rid of it is to pick that Blu-ray up. And I think it's relatively inexpensive. I want to say 14 bucks for the Blu-ray. So getting rid of that one. Another upgrade situation there. Next up is the Amityville Moon. It was a train wreck. It's a low-budget werewolf movie with Amityville in the title, and this is directed by Thomas J. Churchill, who directed a few Amityville movies. He loves that name right there, Amityville. He directed the Amityville Harvest and Amityville Uprising, I believe was the other one. But yeah, they don't have anything to do with the original Amityville movies. I feel like there's a ton of movies out there that use Amityville in the title. It's just kind of clickbait, essentially. Gets your attention. You think, oh, maybe it's tied to the old, you know, Amityville movies, but they're not. And this one was just a disaster. It's just somebody in a werewolf suit. Looks like something that you can get at like Spirit Halloween a bit. And yeah, it was, there's a, you know, kind of like a church home that has these women right there, and trying to like rehabilitate them. And there's somebody killing people, and there's a police officer, and the actor was terrible. Ugh. One of the actresses was decent, but then a lot of the other actors were pretty bad. So this was a rough one to sit through, battle of attrition, really. And I did get sent a really cool promo swag box, movie promo box for this movie. It had a bunch of cool stuff. I did an unboxing of that on my channel. You can check that out. Some, you know, cool stuff in there, but overall the movie was disappointing. So gotta go. And let me know what your favorite werewolf movie is. This would not be, this is on there. This is one of the worst werewolf movies I've seen. But one that I thought was really good and underrated was one British movie called Howl. Really liked that one. Wolf of Snow Hollow was one that I think is unique and also underrated. And Late Phase is another underrated werewolf movie that I never hear anybody talk about. So those are 3 right there that I would definitely recommend for werewolf movies and I think are underrated. I'd say, you know, my favorite would be American Werewolf in London, but I really like American Werewolf in Paris too. That got crapped on a bunch. I'd love to see that get a release, maybe even a 4K release. Why not? You know, American Werewolf in London, that's a classic, obviously, but a lot of movies are getting 4K releases that I'm kind of surprised by too. Dog Soldier would be number 2, Silver Bullet number 3 probably, but I feel like The Howling is in there that just got a 4K release. But I feel like there's a ton of werewolf movies, but not a lot of great ones. I don't even know if there's enough for me to make like a top 10, maybe a top 7 for me. After that, it's rough. I'm just kind of feel like trying to rationalize putting things on the list. I was going to make a top 10 werewolf movie. I was like, I can't really. So yeah, let me know what your favorite werewolf movie is. Let me know an underrated werewolf movie that needs more attention. Next up is The X, which the cast is great in here. Zach Braff, Amanda Peet, Jason Bateman, Charles Grodin, Fred Armisen, Amy Adams, Amy Poehler, Donald Logue, Mia Farrow. Great cast. Not that great of a movie. Average at best. Basically, Zach Braff is, had a bunch of different jobs, and he's trying to get some stability, and he moves back to where she's from, and her father gets him a job, and her ex, played by Jason Bateman, who is wheelchair bound, is working there, and they clash, obviously, and nobody's believing that he's a bad guy. Zach Braff and Amanda Peter are married, and there's kind of rocky in certain situations, especially with him bouncing from job to job, and yeah, just it's kind of formulaic, and there's some deleted scenes in here, alternate endings. I like a lot of the actors here, but the movie itself just isn't great. And yeah, Zach Braff, I love Garden State. That is an all-time life-changing classic movie for me, modern classic. But love that one so much. The soundtrack just blew me away, blew my mind when I first watched it. Natalie Portman, the whole cast was excellent there. But that's like an all-time top 50 favorite movie for me. But Amanda Peet, I've always liked her. I remember her in Saving Silverman. I saw that in the movie theater too. But she's been in a lot of great films. But yeah, overall, great cast, but not a great movie. That doesn't always translate, essentially. I've seen a lot of movies with... but I've seen a lot of movies, though, with a great cast, but it doesn't turn out to be a great movie. Ensemble, and, it just doesn't always work. You need, though, like, I think of the TV show Game of Thrones. Excellent writing, all the effects, all that, but you needed the right cast, and they had just a perfect cast in that one. A lot of TV shows really hinges on the cast. They can have all those technical aspects down, but you need the right cast. Here, you had a great cast, but the movie, the writing, the script isn't that great. So that one's got to go. Let me know if you've seen these movies and what you think of them. 17 titles right here. Let me know which one of these is your favorite. Again, even if you like the movies, I want to hear differing opinions. I like hearing them. We can disagree civilly on movies. They're just movies. I see people just going crazy for the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. Going back and forth, cursing each other. It's just, who cares? It's a movie, I like to hear differing opinions on it, and I'll be talking about that movie coming up soon, actually, because I want to. I feel like it's such a polarizing film. It's interesting how divided everybody is on that one. But yeah, there you go. So that's what didn't make the shelf right there. Some upgrades and stuff that I actually did like. I'm just going to get the Blu-ray for. Some ones that I thought were good movies, but just one-time watches. Some movies I just thought were terrible. So there you go. Leave me those comments down below, and I hope everybody's doing well. Take care.